I slammed on the brakes, my heart hammering as the Seattle skyline blurred past my windshield. The car didn't stop. It didn't even slow. The pedals sank uselessly to the floor, and the screech of tires on I-5 was drowned out by the roar of blood in my ears. A semi-truck loomed ahead, its horn blaring, and I yanked the steering wheel hard, swerving into the shoulder. Gravel sprayed, my BMW shuddered, and I skidded to a stop inches from a guardrail. My hands shook as I gripped the wheel, breath ragged, the city's rain-slicked pulse mocking my near-death escape. Someone had tampered with my brakes. I didn't know who, but the suspicion coiled in my gut like a snake. This wasn't an accident. This was personal. I'm Olivier Bennett, 35, a financial analyst at Pinnacle Wealth Management, one of Seattle's top firms. I've spent my career untangling corporate budgets, forecasting market trends, and making millionaires richer. But 3 years ago, I put it all on hold. My high-rise condo in Belltown, a corner office promotion, my dreams of launching my own advisory firm, to move back into my childhood home in Bellevue. My father's sudden stroke had shattered our family, leaving my mother, Margaret, a ghost of herself, drowning in grief and medical bills. I thought I was doing the right thing, the noble thing, stepping up to keep our craftsman-style home from foreclosure and my mother from collapse. I paid 80% of the bills, mortgage, utilities, her insulin shots, while juggling my day job and freelance gigs for tech startups. I mowed the lawn, fixed leaky faucets, and drove her to endless doctor's appointments. I told myself it was temporary, a year at most, until she got back on her feet. That was 3 years ago, and now someone had tried to kill me. The mechanic's voice still echoed in my head as I sat in the diner at 2 a.m., nursing a black coffee that tasted like regret. "Brake lines don't just fray like that, Miss Bennett," he'd said, wiping grease from his hands. "Someone cut them clean. You're lucky to be alive." Lucky. The word felt like a slap. I stared out the diner's fogged-up window, the neon sign flickering against the Puget Sound darkness. My mind raced back to the last few months, searching for clues. Richard, my mother's new boyfriend, a slick, retired real estate mogul with a smile that never reached his eyes, had been around too often, poking into my life, my finances, my place in the house. His comments stung. A woman your age, still tethered to her mom's apron strings. But I'd brushed him off. He was a distraction, a way for Mom to cope with Dad's absence. But the brake lines? That was no distraction. That was attempted murder. I hadn't always been this paranoid. 3 years ago, I was on track to be Pinnacle's youngest director, living in a sleek condo with a view of Elliott Bay, dating casually and sketching out plans for my own financial advisory firm. Then, Dad's stroke hit like a lightning bolt. One day he was grilling burgers in the backyard, laughing about his college days hiking the Cascades. The next, he was gone, leaving Mom alone in a house too big for her grief. She stopped eating, stopped sleeping, her diabetes spiraling as depression took hold. The mortgage payments piled up and Dad's life insurance barely covered a year's worth of bills. I didn't hesitate. I gave up my lease, packed my designer suits into storage, and moved back into my childhood bedroom, its faded floral wallpaper a reminder of simpler times. I told myself I was saving the family, preserving the home where Dad taught me to ride a bike, where Mom braided my hair for prom. I'd keep the lights on, the fridge stocked, and Mom's spirits up. I'd be the daughter who showed up. For a while, it worked. Mom and I found a rhythm. I'd wake at 5:30 a.m., brew coffee, and make her oatmeal before her morning insulin shot. I'd head to Pinnacle, crunch numbers for hedge fund clients, then pick up groceries on my way home. Weekends were for yard work, mowing the lawn, unclogging gutters, repainting the porch Dad loved. I took on freelance consulting for Seattle's startup scene, balancing books for tech bros with big dreams and bigger ego. The extra cash kept us afloat, covering the $2,500 0 cents monthly mortgage, utilities, and Mom's mounting medical costs. At night, we'd curl up on the couch, binge-watching Dateline and debating whodunits like amateur sleuths. She'd tell me stories of her and Dad's early days, road trips to Yellowstone, dancing at grunge clubs in the 90s, and I'd see glimmers of the vibrant woman she used to be. Those moments felt like a lifeline, proof that my sacrifices were worth it. I was holding our family together, brick by brick. But my sister Sophia was a different story. 2 years younger, she'd always been the wild card, the one who chased chaos while I cleaned up the mess. While I stayed local, attending the University of Washington to save money and help with family expenses, Sophia fled to Los Angeles, chasing fame as an Instagram influencer. She posted selfies with B-list celebrities, racked up credit card debt, and cycled through boyfriends like seasonal wardrobes. And she married a music producer, had 2 kids, Liam, now 9, and Ava, 7, and cut contact with us, except for a brief appearance at Dad's funeral. Even then, she stayed just long enough to pose for a tearful Instagram story before jetting back to her glamorous life. Sophia's finding herself, Mom would say, her voice soft with excuses, whenever I mentioned her absence during holidays or Mom's hospital stays. She's sensitive, not like you, Olivia. Sensitive, that word was a knife, twisting every time Mom used it to justify Sophia's neglect. I had my own dreams, modest but real. I wanted to start my own firm, helping small businesses navigate the financial chaos of Seattle's tech boom. I loved the puzzle of it, turning red ink into black, giving entrepreneurs clarity in a world of spreadsheets and tax codes. But every dollar I earned went to the house, the bills, Mom's prescriptions. My savings dwindled and my dream felt like a distant shore, receding with each passing month. Claire, my best friend since college, saw it clearly. Over cocktails at a Belltown bar, she'd lean in, her voice sharp. "You're killing yourself for someone who'd never do the same, Liv. Margaret's using you." I'd sip my martini and shrug. "She's my mom. What else can I do?" But Claire's words lingered, a warning I couldn't shake. 9 months ago, everything shifted. Mom met Richard at a charity gala for the Bellevue Food Bank. He was all charm, silver hair, tailored suits, a booming laugh that filled rooms. He'd made millions flipping properties during Seattle's real estate boom, and now he played the benevolent retiree, hosting fundraisers and golfing with city council members. Mom lit up around him, dyeing her gray hair auburn, swapping sweatpants for dresses, humming again. I was happy for her, or tried to be. After years of watching her fade, seeing her smile felt like a victory. But Richard's presence came with a cost. He started staying over, lounging in Dad's old study, sipping coffee from his favorite Seahawks mug. His comments about me grew pointed. "A high flyer like you, still bunking with Mom," he'd say, smirking over dinner I'd cooked. "Don't you want your own empire?" I'd grit my teeth and change the subject, but his words festered. Then the brake incident happened. I'd driven home from Pinnacle, rain hammering my windshield, when I realized the brakes were soft. By the time I hit I-5, they were gone. The mechanic's confirmation of sabotage sent my mind spiraling. Richard's shady business ties, rumors of deals with questionable developers, flashed through my head. Had he done this? Or was it someone else? Someone who saw me as a threat? I didn't tell Mom. She'd dismiss it as paranoia, and I couldn't risk her siding with Richard. Instead, I started locking my bedroom door at night, checking my car daily, my senses on high alert. Mom's behavior changed too, subtle at first, then impossible to ignore. She criticized my cooking, though I'd spent hours perfecting her favorite coq au vin. "It's too heavy, Olivia," she'd say, pushing her plate away. She nitpicked the house, My spotless floors were grimy, my folded laundry sloppy. I'd been keeping the place pristine for years, but suddenly nothing was good enough. She started taking calls in her bedroom, door closed, her voice low and secretive. Once, I caught her hiding her phone screen as I walked in, her eyes darting away. "Just a friend," she mumbled, but I knew better. The calls were from Sophia. One afternoon, I found real estate listings on the kitchen counter. Child-friendly homes in Bellevue, with notes about school districts. "For a church fundraiser," Mom said when I asked, snatching the papers away. But our church didn't do real estate projects, and her evasiveness set off alarms. Then she started clearing out my room. I came home to find my designer suits, my MBA diploma, my childhood photo albums stuffed into donation boxes. Spring cleaning, she called it, though it was October, her eyes avoiding mine. "You don't need all this clutter." Clutter? Those were my memories, my achievements, my life. The second danger hit a week later. I woke up dizzy, my head pounding, the air thick with a faint chemical smell. My carbon monoxide alarm was shrieking. I stumbled downstairs, threw open the windows, and called a technician. "Your furnace was tampered with," he said, pointing to a loosened gas valve. "Could have been deadly." Richard had been fixing the furnace the day before, claiming he was handy. I confronted Mom, but she waved it off. "He was helping, Olivia. Don't be dramatic." Dramatic? I'd nearly died in my sleep and she was protecting him? Richard's presence became suffocating. He'd taken over Dad's study, leaving his golf magazines on the desk, his cologne lingering like an invasion. He stayed over most nights, parading around in a robe, offering unsolicited advice about my career. "You're wasting your potential here," he'd say, as if I hadn't single-handedly kept the house running. I overheard him and Mom late one night, their voices drifting through the vents. "Sophia's family needs the space," he said. "Olivia's had her chance." Mom murmured agreement, and my stomach twisted. They were planning something, and I was the obstacle. The final straw came when I found a document in Mom's desk while looking for her insurance papers. It was a forged deed, transferring half the house to Richard's name, dated a month earlier. My name wasn't on the title, but I'd paid the mortgage for 3 years, $90,000, 0 cents of my money. If this was real, I could lose everything, not just my home, but my legal standing. I took photos of the document, my hands trembling, and sent them to Claire. "Get a lawyer," she texted back. "Now." That night, Mom cooked a lavish dinner. Steak, garlic, mashed potatoes, a bottle of Napa Valley Cabernet. The table was set with Dad's old china, reserved for holidays. I should have known something was wrong. She poured the wine, her smile tight, and waited until I was halfway through my meal to speak. "Olivia, we need to talk." Her voice was cold, final. "Sophia's going through a divorce. She and the kids are moving back. They need the house. You have 1 week to leave." I laughed, a sharp, disbelieving sound. "You're joking, right?" And her eyes were steel. "You're 35, Olivia, a grown woman. Sophia's kids need stability, a real home. You've been here long enough." The words hit like a punch. I'd paid for everything, the roof, the water heater, her medicine, and now I was being evicted for Sophia, who hadn't called in years, who'd left Mom to grieve alone. "I'm not freeloading," I said, my voice rising. "I pay the mortgage. I keep this place running." "You're a leech," Mom snapped, her face twisting. "Clinging to this house, acting like it's yours. It's time to move on." Leech. The word burned, searing through 3 years of sacrifice. Richard walked in right on cue, his hand on Mom's shoulder. "Let's stay calm," he said, his tone dripping with false concern. "Family comes first, Olivia. Family, as if I wasn't family. As if Sophia, who'd abandoned us, was more deserving." I grabbed my keys and walked out, rain soaking my coat as I slid into my car. I drove to the same diner, Mike, the bartender, sliding a whiskey across the counter without a word. My phone buzzed. Mom's number. I ignored it. Another danger loomed that night. As I parked near my office to grab files, a masked figure emerged from the shadows, rummaging through my desk drawer where I kept client contracts. I screamed, and he bolted, but not before I saw a flash of a tattoo, a snake coiled around a dagger. I'd seen that tattoo before, on one of Richard's golf buddies. My laptop was hacked the next day, leaking sensitive client data to a competitor. The IT team traced it to my home Wi-Fi. Someone close was targeting me, and I was running out of time to figure out who. The next morning, I found a $5,000 0-cents withdrawal from our joint account, money I'd saved for property taxes and Mom's medical bills. An email, meant for Sophia but sent to me by mistake, confirmed the worst. Found bunk beds for Liam and Ava, Mom wrote. Richard says wait until Olivia's gone, but Sophia wants them delivered ASAP. Can't wait to have my real family back. Real family. I was a placeholder, a means to an end. Sophia's voicemail on the house phone sealed it. Mom, make sure Olivia's out by Friday. I don't want drama with the kids. Drama? As if I was the problem. I wasn't going to beg, I wasn't going to cry. I was done being the dutiful daughter, the invisible savior. I called Emily Carter, a corporate lawyer from my UW days. Over coffee in her sleek downtown office, she laid it out. I was a legal tenant, entitled to 60 days' notice. The forged deed was actionable, and my $90,000 0-cents in contributions gave me a claim for reimbursement. Document everything, she said. Bank statements, receipts, texts, then get out before they escalate. Escalate. The word hung heavy, a reminder of the brake lines, the gas leak, the intruder. I moved fast. Claire's real estate friend found me a loft in Capitol Hill, $1,200 0-cents a month, hardwood floors, city views. I opened a new bank account, transferred my savings, and started packing. Each night I smuggled boxes to Claire's garage. My father's watch collection, my work awards, my life. I hired a locksmith for Friday morning, scheduling the change for 9 a.m. before Sophia's flight landed. Mrs. Thompson, our neighbor and a retired judge, caught me loading my car. "You've been Margaret's rock," she said, her eyes sharp. "Richard's bad news. Watch your back." Her words were a lifeline. Proof someone saw my worth. Friday came, and I stood in the driveway as the locksmith worked, new keys gleaming in my hand. Mom left for the airport, oblivious, reminding me to pack quickly for Sophia's arrival. I didn't respond. I was done playing her game. By noon, my loft was half furnished, my life reassembled in a space that was mine. My phone buzzed. Mom, furious, unable to get in. "Did you change the locks?" her text read. "This is unacceptable," I smiled, picturing her on the porch with Sophia, Liam, and Ava, suitcases piled high, rain soaking their plans. I drove back to the house, parking across the street. They were a tableau of chaos. Sophia pacing, yelling into her phone. Richard banging on the door. Mom red-faced, clutching her purse. The kids looked lost, Liam's baseball cap low, Ava clutching a stuffed bunny. I crossed the street, a folder of bank statements and receipts under my arm. "Having trouble?" I asked, my voice calm but sharp. Mom whirled around. "Olivia, what have you done?" I held up the keys. "Secured my home, as is my right as a tenant. 60 days notice, Mom. That's the law." Sophia lunged forward, her influencer polish gone. "You're ruining everything. I'm starting over, and you're making it about you. I didn't flinch. "I've paid $90,000, 0 cents to keep this house. I'm not the one making it about me." Richard tried to loom over me, but I met his gaze. "This is extortion," he growled. "This is justice," I shot back. I handed Mom one key, leaving the rest with a note. $5,000, 0 cents, repaid, compensation for the HVAC and roof, or my lawyer would handle it. I walked away, their shouts fading behind me, the rain washing away 3 years of sacrifice. I was free, but as I drove to my loft, a final text from an unknown number chilled me. You can't run forever, Olivia. The snake and dagger tattoo flashed in my mind. Someone was still watching, and this wasn't over. The rain hadn't stopped, a relentless Seattle downpour that mirrored the storm raging inside me. I stood in my new Capitol Hill loft, the city's neon glow filtering through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting jagged shadows across my half-unpacked boxes. The space was mine. Hardwood floors, exposed brick, a view of the Space Needle piercing the clouds, but it didn't feel like home, not yet. My phone buzzed on the counter, Margaret's number flashing again. I let it go to voicemail, the 5th call since I'd left her stranded on the porch with Sophia, Richard, and the kids, their suitcases soaked, their plans derailed by my new locks. Her voice crackled through the speaker, sharp and pleading. Olivia, this isn't you. Open the door. We can talk, please. Talk. As if words could erase the word leech, the $5,000 0 cents she stole, the forged deed, the brake lines cut to silence me. I deleted the message, but the unknown number's text from yesterday lingered in my mind. You can't run forever, Olivia. The snake and dagger tattoo I'd glimpsed on the intruder flashed back, a puzzle piece I couldn't place. Someone was still out there, watching. I poured a glass of Pinot Noir, the bottle a housewarming gift from Claire, and sank onto the couch, my father's vintage watch collection glinting in its velvet case on the coffee table. Each timepiece, a Rolex from his Navy days, a Patek Philippe he'd saved a decade for, was a reminder of the man who'd believed in me, who'd taught me to fight. I'd saved them from Margaret's purge, but my office awards, my childhood photos, they were gone, replaced by Sophia's old yoga mats and glittery heels in my former room. The betrayal cut deeper than I'd admitted, a wound that bled every time I remembered Margaret's cold stare, Richard's smug grin, Sophia's entitled demands. But I wasn't the Olivia who'd driven away in tears. I was done being their doormat tonight. I'd start fighting back. The confrontation on the porch had been just the beginning. I'd stood there, rain dripping down my coat, as Margaret's face twisted from shock to rage. You changed the locks, she sputtered, clutching her purse like a shield. Sophia had lunged forward, her designer sunglasses slipping, her voice a hiss. This is low, even for you, Olivia. I'm starting over, and you're throwing a tantrum. I'd held my ground, my voice steady despite the adrenaline. I've paid $60,000, 0 cents to keep this house, 60 days' notice, repayment of the $5,000, 0 cents you took, and compensation for the HVAC and roof. That's the deal. Richard had stepped in, his bulk looming, his tone dripping with menace. This is extortion. You'll regret this. I'd met his eyes, unflinching. Try me. The folder of bank statements and receipts I'd left on the dining table was my insurance, Emily Carter's business card clipped to the top. Margaret had taken the key, her hand trembling, a flicker of guilt in her eyes. But Sophia's parting shot echoed as I'd walked away. You're sabotaging my kid's future. I'll sue you for emotional distress. Emotional distress. The irony was almost laughable. For 3 years, I'd poured my soul into that house, into Margaret, while Sophia posted selfies from Malibu, oblivious to our mother's grief, our father's absence. Now she was the victim, and I was the villain. I sipped my wine, the bitterness matching my mood, and opened my laptop. The hacked client data from Pinnacle was still a raw wound. Someone had used our home Wi-Fi to leak sensitive hedge fund portfolios, costing a client millions and putting my promotion at risk. The IT report pointed to an external device, and Richard's late-night work in Dad's study was too convenient. His golf buddy's tattoo, the snake and dagger, nagged at me. I'd seen it somewhere else, maybe a news article, a business deal gone wrong. I started searching, my fingers flying across the keys, chasing a thread that felt dangerous but vital. A knock at the door jolted me. It was 10 p.m., too late for visitors. I grabbed the pepper spray from my purse, my pulse quickening, and checked the peephole. Claire stood there, her blonde hair damp, a bottle of bourbon in hand. "You didn't think I'd let you sulk alone, did you?" she said as I opened the door, her grin fading when she saw my face. "Liv, what's wrong?" I told her everything, the porch showdown, the threatening text, the tattoo, the hacked lap. Her eyes narrowed as she poured us both a shot. "Richard's dirty. I've heard rumors at the firm, shady land deals, connections to some rough types. You need to be careful." Careful. I'd survived tampered brakes, a gas leak, an intruder. Careful wasn't enough anymore. The next morning, I drove to Pinnacle, the city's skyline sharp against a rare, clear sky. Miss Harper, my boss, had called me in early, her email cryptic. "We need to discuss the data breach and your future." My stomach churned as I rode the elevator to the 40th floor, the glass walls reflecting my tailored blazer and the dark circles under my eyes. The director position she'd offered was my lifeline, a $200,000 0-cent salary that would secure my loft, my firm, my independence. But the breach had shaken the firm's trust, and I couldn't shake the fear that Richard's shadow was behind it. Miss Harper's office was all sleek lines and power, her silver hair pulled back, her gaze piercing. "Olivia, the client's threatening to pull their account," she said, sliding a report across her desk. "The breach came from your home network. Explain." I took a breath, choosing my words carefully. "Someone accessed my laptop remotely. I've changed all my passwords, installed new security protocols. My home situation, it's complicated. I'm moving out, handling it." She studied me, her expression unreadable. "You're our best analyst, but this can't happen again. The director role is yours, but you're on probation. Prove you're worth it." I nodded, relief warring with dread. Probation meant scrutiny, long hours, no room for error, but it also meant a chance to rebuild, to show the world, and myself, what I could do. Back at my desk, I checked my phone. A voicemail from Margaret, her voice softer now, almost desperate. "Olivia, I saw your papers. We need to talk. Come home at noon, please." Home. The word felt like a lie. I texted Emily Carter, my lawyer friend, attaching the forged deed photos. "Can we countersue if Richard's pushing a sale?" Her reply was swift. "If it's fraud, yes. Gather more evidence. Stay safe." That word again, mocking me as I remembered the speeding car that had nearly hit me while I moved boxes. It had been no accident, the driver's face obscured, the license plate unreadable. I'd reported it to the police, but without proof. It was just another Seattle hit and run. I drove to Bellevue, the Craftsman house looking smaller, sadder under the gray sky. Mrs. Thompson, the retired judge next door, was pruning her roses, her eyes sharp as she waved me over. "Your mother's in over her head," she said, her voice low. "Richard's been meeting with developers, talking big money for this block. He's no saint, Olivia. Watch him." Her warning echoed Claire's, and I nodded, slipping her my new number. "If you see anything strange, call me." She patted my arm, her grip firm. "Your dad would be proud." "Don't let them break you." I knocked on the front door, my key still in my pocket, a test. Margaret opened it, her face pale, her auburn hair limp. "You didn't need to knock," she said, but her eyes darted to the new lock. Inside, the house smelled of Sophia's perfume, her yoga mat stacked in the hall, Liam's sneakers by the stairs. The kids were at school, Sophia and Richard out, leaving us alone. Margaret led me to the dining table, my folder of financial records untouched, Emily's card glaring up at us. "I didn't mean Leach," she started, her voice cracking. "I was upset. Sophia's in trouble and You stole $5,000 0 cents. I cut in, my voice ice. "You planned this for months, with Sophia, with Richard. You called me a burden." She flinched, but I pressed on. "I paid $60,000 0 cents to keep this house. I deserve 60 days' notice, repayment, and compensation for the actual roof. That's not negotiation." She twisted her hands, her wedding ring glinting. "Richard says we can't afford that. He's helping with the mortgage now. Sophia's trying, but her divorce..." "Sophia's divorce isn't my problem," I snapped. "She hasn't called you in years. I was here every day while you grieved Dad, and you threw me out." Her eyes filled with tears, but I didn't soften. "I saw the deed, Mom. Richard's name on it. Is he selling the house?" Her face crumpled, and she looked away. "He's exploring options. The property's worth a lot now. It could help Sophia, the kids, and leave me with nothing." I stood, my chair scraping. "I'm not leaving without what I'm owed. Emily Carter's ready to file if you don't comply." I left the folder and walked out, her sobs following me. In the driveway, I noticed Richard's Mercedes parked crookedly, a manila envelope on the passenger seat labeled Bennett Property. My blood ran cold. He was moving faster than I'd thought. That night, another danger struck. I was unpacking in my loft when the fire alarm screamed. Smoke poured from the kitchen, where a rag had been stuffed into the toaster, ignited. I grabbed the extinguisher, dousing the flames, my heart pounding. The building super confirmed it wasn't an accident. Someone had broken into the utility room, disabling the sprinklers. I called Claire, who arrived with a security expert friend, Nate. "This is targeted," he said, checking my locks. "Install cameras, Liv. And get a gun." I laughed, nervous, but his face was grim. "I'm serious. You're in someone's way." The next day, I met Emily at her office, a sleek space overlooking Pike Place Market. I handed her the deed photos, the withdrawal records, and a USB drive with every email, text, and voicemail from Margaret and Sophia. "Richard's tied to a syndicate," I said, my voice low. "Mrs. Thompson mentioned developers, and Claire heard he's dodged fraud charges before." Emily's eyes narrowed. "If he's laundering money through the house, we can nail him. But we need proof. Can you get into his file?" I hesitated, the intruder's tattoo flashing in my mind. "I'll try." At Pinnacle, the director role consumed me. I worked 14-hour days, rebuilding trust after the breach, my probation a constant pressure. Miss Harper praised my turnaround, but the leaked data haunted me. I hired a private investigator. Sam, a grizzled ex-cop Claire recommended. "Give me Richard's name, any associates," he said over coffee at a Fremont cafe. "I'll dig." I handed him a list, including the snake and dagger tattoo description. His jaw tightened. "That's a marker for the Volkov crew. Russian muscle for hire. If Richard's with them, you're playing with fire." The fire metaphor felt too real. That night, I returned to the Bellevue house under cover of darkness, using my key to slip inside. Margaret was at a church event, Sophia and the kids asleep upstairs, Richard at a meeting. Dad's study was locked, but I'd learned to pick it as a teen, sneaking in to read his novels. Inside I found a laptop, password protected, and a locked drawer. I jimmied it open, my flashlight catching a stack of contracts. Land deals, all tied to a shell company, Volkov Holdings. A photo slipped out, Richard with a man, snake and dagger tattoo on his wrist, both smiling at a construction site. My phone buzzed. Sam, get out now. Richard's car just pulled into the neighborhood. I grabbed the photo, stuffed the contracts back, and slipped out the back door as headlights swept the driveway. My heart raced as I ducked behind Mrs. Thompson's hedge, Richard's voice barking orders to someone on the phone. "Find her! She's digging too deep!" I ran to my car, parked 2 blocks away, and drove to my loft, the photo burning a hole in my pocket. Sam met me there, his face grim. Volkov's bad news. Extortion, arson, worse. Richard's using your mom's house as collateral for a deal. If it sells, he's clean, and you're screwed. The next danger hit at dawn. I woke to a brick through my loft's window, glass shattering across my floor. A note was taped to it. "Stop digging or you're next." I called the police, but the cameras Nate installed had been spray-painted. Claire stayed over, her presence a comfort, but sleep was impossible. I was a target, and Richard, or his Volkov allies, was closing in. I texted Emily, attaching the photo and a summary. "File the countersuit, fraud, theft, endangerment." Her reply was immediate. "Done. Court date in 2 weeks. Stay alive." The court date loomed, but Margaret's next move blindsided me. She showed up at Pinnacle, her face haggard, begging to talk. We sat in a conference room, her hands trembling. "Richard's not who I thought," she whispered. "He's pushing me to sell, saying it's for Sophia, but I found papers, money to offshore accounts." I leaned in, my voice soft but firm. "He's using you, Mom. He forged a deed, stole my money, tried to kill me." Her eyes widened, tears spilling. "I didn't know, Olivia. I thought I was helping Sophia." I handed her a tissue, my anger softening, but not my resolve. "Help me stop him. Testify." She hesitated, fear etched in her face. "He'll hurt us. You don't know what he's capable of." I gripped her hand. "I do. That's why we fight." She nodded, a fragile promise, and left. But I knew Richard wouldn't let her turn easily. That night, Sophia called, her voice venomous. "You're brainwashing Mom, Olivia. I'm suing you, and I'll win. Liam and Ava deserve this house." I hung up, her threat hollow but chilling. It was desperate, and desperate people were dangerous. The final danger came 3 days before the hearing. I was leaving Pinnacle late, the parking garage dim, when a man stepped from the shadows, snake and dagger tattoo gleaming under the fluorescent light. "You're out of time, Bennett," he growled, a knife glinting in his hand. I backed away, my pepper spray useless against his speed. He lunged, but a security guard's shout startled him and he fled, tires screeching. I collapsed against my car, shaking, the guard calling 911. Sam met me at the station, his face grim. "Volkov's escalating. Richard's in too deep. We've got enough for a restraining order, maybe an arrest." The hearing was a battlefield. Emily presented my case. Tenant rights, the $5,000 0 cents theft, the $60,000 0 cents in contributions, the forged deed. Richard sat beside Margaret, his lawyer a shark in a $5,000 0 cents suit. Sophia glared from the gallery, Liam and Ava absent, likely at school. Margaret took the stand, her voice trembling but clear. "I trusted Richard, but he lied. Olivia paid for everything. I was wrong to push her out." The judge's eyes softened, and I felt a surge of hope. Richard's lawyer tried to paint me as a greedy opportunist, but Emily's evidence was ironclad. The ruling came swiftly. 60 days' notice, $5,000, 0 cents for home upgrades, and an injunction against Richard's deed transfer. Outside the courthouse, Margaret hugged me, her tears soaking my blazer. "I'm sorry, Olivia. I was blind." I held her, my own eyes stinging, but my boundaries firm. "We start over, Mom, on my terms." Sophia stormed off, her lawsuit threat empty, her plans crumbling. Richard vanished, Sam later confirming he'd fled to avoid Volkov's wrath. The house was safe, for now, but I wouldn't return. My loft was my sanctuary, my firm was growing, and Pinnacle's trust was mine again. 6 months later, I stood on my loft's balcony, the city alive below me. My advisory firm had 5 clients, small businesses thriving under my guidance. Therapy with Dr. Ellis had unraveled years of people-pleasing, teaching me that love isn't earned through sacrifice. It's given freely or not at all. Margaret was rebuilding, Sophia's unreliability a burden she now faced alone. Mrs. Thompson sent updates. Richard's deals had collapsed, Volkov's men circling him. I saw Margaret at a grocery store, her smile tentative, pride in her eyes when she mentioned my firm's ad in Seattle Magazine. "You're your father's daughter," she said, and I nodded, letting the compliment land without chasing more. The unknown number never texted again, but I kept the cameras, the pepper spray, the lessons. I'd lost the illusion of family, but found something better. My voice, my worth, my fight. The rain had stopped, and as the sun broke through, I raised my coffee mug to the skyline, a toast to the woman I'd become. They'd tried to break me, but I'd built something unbreakable.